now joined by Coach Gary Patterson from TCU. Coach, your thoughts about the upcoming season?
Just glad to have one. Glad to be here. Good to see everybody. You know, you don't miss something. You guys always know how I do things as far as this is it's, I think you kind of have to enjoy the moment. I know a lot of people say, well, but I think this is the one time we get an opportunity to be around all of you. It's been a fun summer. It's been more of a normal summer for us as far as our team's concerned, obviously in the state of Texas. And so our guys have been working hard. You know, I did an interview the other day to where I said that it was probably one of the better chemistry teams we've had in a long time. And they took that, well, saying that we were going to win a national championship, and that's not what I said. But I would say this, different than the norm, Gary Patterson, which in my play below the water, I think just for our fans, our team, they deserved a lot different look at things. And so our group has had great chemistry, and I'll give you a great example. Usually in May, when we get done with finals, guys will leave for a couple weeks, and because we only had 8 seniors, but basically 90% of them didn't lift. They stayed on their own, lived, ran, so you can kind of tell where they're at, what they're doing. It'll be the first time we've had a returning quarterback back in since 17. You know, and if a lot of people don't really understand what Max went through a year ago. When you understand you were only a freshman, you're going to go in the spring. You didn't have spring. You didn't get an opportunity to also throw in the summer with your teammates. And then he had his condition, and they basically didn't let him do anything until a week before we played, I think on the 26th against Iowa State. And so for him to grow up where he's at, unbelievable leader. He's here with me today. But basically everybody on offense comes back. Snapper, kicker, punter. Defensively, we got 3 really good players. We have to replace 2 tight ends we had on offense that got into camps. I think we had 8 seniors, 5 guys got into camps. So the 2 safeties and Wallow, the linebacker, and been kind of fun. It's a great group to be around. You know, usually your offense and defense will have chemistry together, not necessarily as a whole team. I gave you a great example. The other day I come walking out, and they just got done with workouts. And when they got done, they were both on 2 ends of the field, and they came around high-fiving each other. Very rarely do you have a group that like each other. And I think COVID has a little bit to do with that, for the simple reason that you had Zoom classes and you didn't see the regular students. We basically had to rely on each other. And this group here really kind of came together, I think probably because they were so young. And so I don't know how that's going to turn out, but chemistry is a great start. The way they work is a great start, and having a starting quarterback back is a great start. So for us at TCU, we're just glad to see everybody here today, get an opportunity to have full 100% capacity in our stadium and get a chance to do that. And then got a tough early schedule. You know, besides Duquesne, you got a Cal Berkeley team that they're talking about. Watch them enough in their spring game to understand that they're going to be a really good football team. SMU's got a good football team going early, and then you start out with Texas at home. And so Texas, and then you go down the list of Texas Tech on the road, then OU, and that's your first 6 ball games. So after that, we'll regroup and see what goes on. Questions?
Questions for Coach? You put your hand up. We've got one all the way on the outside, at the left, Coach. Just a moment.
Perfect.
Hey, Coach. Shahan J. Rogers from Dave Campbell's Texas Football. I'm curious, now you kind of go into this second year with Jerry Kill there, with Tim Beck there. Where do you kind of feel like you guys are out from an offensive schematic perspective, and how much will it help to kind of have that continuity?
Well, number one, I think we have one of the best, really, systems in place to have 2 older guys that have won national championships. Jerry Kill, obviously, anywhere he was a head coach, he made that program better. And then that allowed me to hire people like Kenny Hill. That's a younger quarterback coach, but you have guys that can sit and watch and make sure that we don't miss any of the details, but a guy that can recruit, the kids relate to. I think it's probably as good a system as anybody could have in college football right now, because I have guys in place behind the scenes that help do all the things we need to do. And so, and more than that, you know, especially in this day and age, with not only just with COVID, but everything else, just to have somebody else that can be a father figure, a guy that can sit down with kids, because there's 125 of them. at TCU, and there's only one of me, and to have other guys that can actually sit down and help kids with their lives, with the NIL, everything else that's going on. How do you navigate? How do you navigate the world? So anytime anybody could have a guy with that kind of experience, almost like myself, 40 years in college football, and been the places he's been, it couldn't help but be a plus. And so, you know, the rest of my staff, people don't understand, 7 out of my 10 full-time coaches, since we've been there so long, were either started as GAs or played for me. And then out of the other 20, almost 10 of them, 9 or 10 of them, started as GAs and played and had been around the program. So you don't have to teach the culture. And so for us, going forward, it's really been, it's a lot of fun to watch them grow within your program and how they've gone on. You know, it's a hard business though right now for young coaches, because with all the analysts and everybody, it's really hard to get. Everybody thought, well, there'd be a lot of movement, but there's not been any movement, because we got some really good young coaches that deserve to be full-time coaches at any level of college, and they had to stay another year because last year there just wasn't a lot of movement. So you have a lot of experience as a staff coming back as a whole group, because even in your young coaches, because it's a lot more than just your full-time guys. I mean, it's everybody. And so to have a guy like Tim Beck, that's been a head coach, Coach Sanchez, that was the head coach at UNLV, that's on our staff as a volunteer analyst. I mean, you just have a lot of guys that have a lot of experience. Coach Glasgow, Coach Anderson have been with me 26 years. And so anytime you put all those people in place, you think the same way in a lot of ways. And so with a returning quarterback, we'll see how that turns out.
We got 2 questions in the middle back here. On the start with the front one, and then we'll go to the back one.
Hi, Coach. Dean Rowe from the O'Colly. You talk about having all these pieces around the field, you know, Duggan, Mathis. How do you see this all coming together to actually compete in the Big 12 this season?
Well, I mean, it's, you know, everybody, I put it in a playoff perspective. I think that in the 8 years we've been in the Big 12, 14, 15, and 17, I think we would have been in the playoffs if we would have been 12 teams. So I think we know how to win ball games. Between 8 and 10, we were 36-3. 14 and 15, we were 23-3. So winning ball games is not new to TCU. 17, you win 11-3. 2 of those losses were the 3 losses were the 2 teams that are picked at the top of the conference this year. So the Iowa State game with a young team, we lost by 3 at our house. You know, if you look at, as I told my team just this week, if you want to win 11, 10, 11, 12 ball games, you're probably going to win 5 ball games, because the parity in this league is very close. So you're going to have to win the close ball games, and when we've had big wins, you're going to have to win games by 10 points or less. And so how do you do that? This is one of the years where we go on the road 5 times, 4 at home, but we have 7 home games. I think you know, the biggest thing is getting back to understanding the detail of what we have to do, and that's what I told them. You're going to have to learn how to win the close ball games. And one of the ways you do that also, I think, is like other teams that have in the league, you have to have a returning quarterback. You always want, if you want to have the ball last. And when you have an older guy, that's a lot better to have the ball last.
We got a question on the left-hand side, about 3/4 of the way back.
Ryan Chapman with SI Sooners. Gary, you guys are one of the first programs to have the benefit of the new in-conference transfer rule. What has that done for a guy like Chandler Morris that can come in this offseason and actually prepare with the goal of playing next year? And then secondly, have you been able to look forward? Is there any concern that the new rule might increase, whether it be tampering or poaching in conference, whatever you want to call that?
Well, I don't know about just in conference. I think you just need to understand, right now we're in a situation where we have the NIL and transfer, but we don't, like the NFL, they have a players union. Right now we don't have a players union. There is no rules right now besides the state laws. And so as we move forward, one of the biggest things that's off base, you need to marry things together, is we could have all these guys transfer, but right now we can only take 25 scholarships. That has to change, whether it's to the basketball rule that you have 25, and then if you lose one, you can add another one. We got to, coaches, I think probably the biggest thing that they sit up here and ask is just roster management. How do we manage our roster? We were fortunate because, again, like I said, we only had 8 seniors. So for us losing guys, we didn't have to worry. But if I was somebody that had 24 seniors until that rule gets changed, that's going to be really hard, because if you do it and then you lose 10 guys to the portal or whatever they do and however things go down, you can't replace them. And especially not talking about Power 5, but we're talking about the lower level of Division I football. I think that's a big problem right now that we have to be able to fix and be able to understand that, dude, you got to, you have to have solutions. I always say that the difference between a good coach and a great coach is a coach that can fix things quickly. And so that's something that really, before we get to signing date here in December, we need to make sure with the NCAA and as a governing body, the AFCA, being the president last year, we've got to get fixed. We've got to get it to where that marries up a little bit better than what it does right now. To be honest with you, I'm a little bit different, a little bit on the NIL. For simple, I think it even the playing field. I think it gave everybody an opportunity to, and every kid an opportunity to get. I think our jobs are going to be as coaches, even though universities stay out of it, is not. The really good players are going to have their own deals. People are going to find them. I think my job, we have a saying at TCU, 40 not 4. It's not about how we grow them up for the 4 years, but it's what we're going to do for them for 22 to 62. And I think we probably being there I've been there at TCU 24 years. I think we can probably talk about that as well as anybody can in the country about that. And I think it's really important for us to understand how do we help any of them. Now, I'll give you a great example how I think it might have helped TCU last year. Our Darius Washington. He went out early in the draft as a safety. He didn't have all the measurables. Probably if he could have had some endorsement deals where he could have made some money that he could have given to his family, he might have stayed another year and been playing at TCU right now. I think there's going to be some positive things that came out of doing all this. And, but like anything, abuse leads to restriction. The things you talked about, tampering, using leverage as far as the amount of money that you'd have to go to one school or the other. If any of us believe that might not be a possibility, I think is crazy. That's why if you look in the NFL model, you can't talk to other teams. You can't do those kind of things. There's severe penalties. And so there's going to have to be some things in place that are going to have to be played. It's probably why they always like me talking first, because I always get the 800-pound gorilla questions out of the way, so you guys can go about so everybody else knows how to answer them when we get done. But I think all of that stuff's going to play, but it still comes down to, like you saw in the article, ESPN article that I said, and I think Max Duggan would tell you if you interview him, he knows it's a big year for him. If he has a great year, all those other things take care of themselves. He wants to win. I saw a high school kid talk about in recruiting. Anybody that started talking to him about name, image, and likeness, he took him off his page. He was going to college to play football. There are still those guys out there that want to do things for the right reason, and we want everybody to be successful, and we want them to be able to move on and help themselves, whether they help themselves or their family or anybody else. And it's a big deal. But I think you'll find the teams that keep everything in perspective, that understand you still got to win football games, are going to be the ones that are going to do the best job in the season, and they're going to have more of the opportunities. Every year that we've had big years at TCU, more guys have been drafted, okay, and more guys have been free agents. And so success breeds success. I don't think there's going to be any change. Obviously, all of us know that we've got to have a few walls around everything we do, because you want to, as I say as a head coach, my job is to protect the good guys, whether it's rules within our team or how we do things. And I don't think it's going to be any different with the NIL or transfer rules or anything else. We got to be able to. I'm not a big transfer guy. I think I would deal with it just like I would a junior college guy in a lot of ways, that if we need a hole filled, then you do it. We're still a developmental school. That's why, we had 3 of those guys that came, that were grad transfers, came here because their people told them that they could get better and be more draftable and go higher in the draft if they came to TCU, because that's what our reputation is. And so for me, that's what we want to keep it. And we want to keep doing those kind of things, because I still think if kids are going to get to a high level, it's still about the process. You still have to learn how to fight through the hardest things you got, from accountability, work ethic, and all those kind of things to get, because the measure at the NFL level it's still 250 some guys are going to get drafted out of 13 or 14,000 every year that are eligible. And how do you stay on that team? And the guys that do that, it's like I told my team the other day, Okay, how many 5-stars were there on either one of those teams that played in the Super Bowl? I don't know what it was, like 1 or 2, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 4-stars, but it was a lot of 3-stars, 2-stars, all the rest of it. And so I'm looking for 5-star talent with 2-star humor and humility and accountability and all those kind of things that we get where we need to.
We had a question on the rear right side middle.
Yeah, Chris Hummer with 24/7 Sports. It wasn't that long ago Kenny Hill was here as a player talking to us. What did you see from him off the field as an analyst and a GA the last few years that made you feel confident to elevate him?
Yeah, well, just Kenny's always a guy that's had the it factor as far as the personality and all of that, and that's one of the key issues in recruiting and everything else that goes along with being one of those 9 or 10 full-time assistants. You know, I keep a file on what I think guys ever, just like my assistant, you know, and all assistant coaches complain about their head coach. I mean, I did when I was assistant, but I think the biggest thing was just his relationship with the kids on the team, Max Duggan in particular, knowing the game, been within the system, his relationships when kids came on campus of how they related to him as a recruiter. That was the same reason I hired Zarnell Fitch when he was on campus. Kids just gravitated to him. And I think if you ask guys around here, they would talk to you about how those guys do a great job in recruiting. One of the reasons why, again, I put in place in the university, really, the chancellor and Jeremiah Donati allowing us to be able to put in position a guy like Jerry Kill or Tim Beck or Coach Sanchez or any of the guys I have that are behind the scenes. When you have those guys that you have experience, I think Coach Saban's been able to do that best at Alabama. I mean, you've got to be able to make good decisions. So to be able to have good decisions, you've got to be able to have a lot of people have an opinion that you can sort through everything and come up with the right answer. And Kenny Hill is one of those. It became very clear that he would be the right answer for us because of his relationship with Max and the other quarterbacks, and also that he has such a high end as far as personality and being able to recruit and do all those other things. He loves football. That's an easy part. You know, now we just need to mold him into being a guy that can be in this profession on a day-to-day basis and being in a long time. I mean, that's my job.
Okay, this is going to be the final question for Coach over here on the second row, left side.
Hi, Coach. Ashley Vandevelde, Gaylord College at Oklahoma. Surrounding the new rules with preseason pad practices, how do you feel this will affect your team preparation-wise, especially with those big games you talked about?
Well, you know, all of us, I think, coaching-wise, would have liked us to have gone back to the 2019 rule where we were able to have walkthroughs in the summer and do things. But again, we all, because I thought, again, just like the NIL, I thought it evened the playing field. There was the guys that did it and the guys that didn't do it. But I think our kids, now that we're a year older, it's a lot easier for us now than it was a year ago. With all the young guys that we had to play, and really with COVID, you know, anybody that had an older team had an advantage last year, especially early in the season. Now I think it's a little bit more normal doing the things we're doing and how we're doing it. So, but I think everything is going to be okay now. You know, you set your preseason up where we have 4 home games. You play Duquesne, which is the 1AA team, and then you go into a Cal Berkeley team that comes to Texas, and then SMU. So I think the level of competition definitely will get us ready for being able to play in the Big 12 conference the way we do things. So it's a long road because after the 1 week early we have off, we go straight through. We don't have any other off weeks, so we better be ready.
Okay, Coach, thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you.
Good luck
Go
for the
Frogs.
season.
We'll see you.